Good morning. It's 9:49 a.m. August 26, 2020. I want to acknowledge for many years I didn't take pictures of myself. When I left Chicago, I weighed about 125 pounds. When I left Chicago, New Year's Eve, 2009, I weighed about 125 pounds. And I remember getting to California and I had a friend, and he's like, "You're too thin. It's unhealthy to be so thin." And the ironic thing is, I was in the best shape of my life. I remember somebody commenting about how behind me, I couldn't see behind me. And they're like, you have any idea what your muscle tone looks like from behind? I'm like, no. They're like, oh my God, your back is ripped. I look pretty damn good, right? But then things started happening in what some wanted to classify as a mental illness, but apparently also could potentially have qualified for traumatic brain injury. Um, as well as also some sort of other way of defining it, including as a recipient of torture or being subjected to acts of torture and all the other kinds of attendant potential medical diagnoses that could have come with that. My body changed. And when I was in San Francisco, I gained about 120 pounds. At one point, I weighed about 240 pounds, maybe a little more. I had to walk with a cane. The pressure was intense. My body was degenerating. I walked with a cane. I couldn't walk more than a couple of blocks without having to stop and catch my breath. And not only that, my feet often would hurt so badly that I would have to sway from foot to foot. Now, there's all kinds of other things that could explain this, including things that were going on concurrently. But I'm in a similar situation now. I was on the streets for many years, and while I was on the streets, I lost a lot of weight, and I was very thin, I was very svelte, and I've been gaining weight, especially recently. At the beginning of the year, something changed. And I already know that there are a variety of different currents going on. And because I took a vow of celibacy until certain socio political factors were figured out, including anything having to do with intimate relationships or anything in my personal life outside of that, that when I may otherwise be trying to express or process my energy in a way that could lead to some sort of, shall we say, delightful or pleasurable physical activity, including with a partner, that's not what happens. And so, one of those things that happens is psychosocially, I do that sort of thing where I kind of give into stress eating and I'm more sedentary than I should be, especially with the COVID-19 and the reinforcement, the constant reinforcement to stay inside and the self quarantine, the fact that the gyms are shut down, the fact that the public recreational spaces are still coded with this kind of surveil and detect kind of mentality. I don't think I'm alone, and I believe there might be other people that are experiencing some fluctuation in their weight, and it may or may not have an impact on the way they see themselves, especially because so much of what we're doing now is supposed to be remote and it's supposed to be online. I also understand that there is intensive surveillance and that people's communications online are being captured and being extracted to be used by other people. I'm concerned it's also being used by other people in a process of using the digital economy, including the digital information economy, as part of this transition in the energy paradigm where they're trying to talk to us about green energy, while it also accommodates the rollout of 5G. I know that there are movements around the world, including very substantial movements internationally, to try to scale back, if not altogether stop, 5G. And I know that there are other countries, including countries that are chastised, if not outright sanctioned, by the United States regarding their technology policy. They have very different understandings of what we should be doing with 5G right now that are based upon what we didn't do with 4G and what we didn't even do with 3G. And so these are the kind of contexts I understand things are operating in. But I also have to acknowledge that I discovered something, and I've discovered something the last couple of days that's alarming. As a reference point, let me say that in the summer of 2017, something happened, and I didn't know exactly what it was, but I found out later. I went through and I started investigating issues by the Department of Treasury regarding Treasury notes for the United States. And there was a very specific time in the summer of 2017 when there were a distinct and unique type of issue that the Treasury did around its Treasury notes. Usually, Treasury notes have a specific period of time, 4 weeks, 12 weeks, 26 weeks, 52 weeks, and then they have ones that are 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Okay, so these are the kind of standard dates. But then every once in a while, if you go through, there's these unique issues that have a very different kind of time frame. Sometimes it's as short as 14 days. And this is what happened in 2017. Within a period of about 10 days, there were four different, very unique and almost anomalous Treasury issues. Part of that correlated with my legal filings. I had no way of knowing at the time. I didn't have any consciousness of this process. And either these issues had already been established, and so I was inspired as whatever the rollover was, or the turnover, or whatever else was connected to the inspiration or the impetus behind these unique issues, to file my legal filings at times that I now realize totally correlate with the issue dates and the auction dates on these issues. But these were unique issues. These were not the regular kind of issues that happen. And I also was learning, as I've done my investigation, that sometimes when Treasury issues something, they'll do a reissue. They'll reopen the issue before it comes due. Now, I saw this. I found a newspaper that was discussing how they were about to implement a new financial regime in Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia was going to start issuing its own notes and its own bonds. But the same day they had that notice about Saudi Arabia and what it was going to be doing with its issue, it also had an announcement of several reissues of Treasury notes and Treasury things that Treasury notes that directly correlated in terms of issues with major things that were a part of my investigation, including parts of my investigation that were included in the package I sent to the Department of Justice in February of 2018. So this is one of these things I've been trying to address on a very significant level for quite a considerable amount of time. How is it that I get no response to any of my legal filings, any of my reports, and yet if I look at what's publicly accessible information, including with public reporting bodies, up to and including the Treasury and the Federal Reserve, there is that kind of precision. And not only precision in terms of me identifying something and responding, but then at some point later, what I understand is that I've proven fraud. I've proven that there was fraud and there was insider trading and there was something highly illegal going on in connection with the original issue. So they reopened the issue so they can recharacterize it. And I believe that when they do that, without actually confirming with me, providing reports, and acknowledging that, including in a manner that establishes and maintains my professional credibility as either an investigator and or somebody that's actually attempting to implement preventative measures in order to forestall the proliferation of money laundering, that up to and including money laundering that finances acts of terrorism, instead of acknowledging that, they backdoor say, oh, this is too much. We can't actually let this go. So we're going to open it up for a reissue. And they've just done that recently. As a matter of fact, this week, they have processes of reopening issues. Right during the Republican National Convention, they have strategically timed and strategically coordinated reissues on treasuries. And when I look at the information connected to the original, then this lets me know the Department of Treasury knows how COVID-19 is being promulgated. And right now, they're doing what they're doing on their end to recalibrate it for a different kind of systematology moving forward, without acknowledging and without telling us in person what they did or how they did it and what COVID-19 really is. I'm looking right now at a website that provides information about campaign donations. Apparently, Raytheon Technologies has both a PAC that they use to contribute to people's political campaigns, but they also have individual contributors that work for them. And I'm looking right now at the most recent donation from Arlington, Virginia. The donation was registered on July 31st, 2020 for $404. Now, there's other donations that have certain other information, but exactly 20 days after this donation is dated, I had the 1 year anniversary on a public comment I made to the Federal Reserve. And the number they assigned me as the comment ID number ends in 404. Why is there, I'm just saying, is there a direct correlation between an individual donation to Raytheon, through Raytheon to a political candidate for office that is recorded at $404 exactly 20 days before the 1 year anniversary on a comment I made to the Federal Reserve? I absolutely believe it is. And I believe somebody at Raytheon would understand the correlations with the national security strategy. Is this an illicit interference in the campaign of a political candidate? And if they did this in July, were they doing comparable things in 2019 when I had to withdraw from my political campaign because I understood they were actually attempting to assassinate somebody that had declared themselves to be running for president on May 1st of 2019? Now, under whose authority or in what manner would this be investigated? Who has the authority? Would this be under the jurisdiction of the CIA? Would this be under the jurisdiction of the Department of Defense? Or have I been allowed to be kidnapped and isolated because other people think they're going to use my campaign as a way to try to provide protection or insurance for theirs because they absolutely know that that fraudulent document that was given to me after I had been kidnapped branded me not only as an asset of a uranium company, but happened to occur on the same day the president initiated a commission through executive order in order to investigate allegations of election interference. There was another commission the president engaged on that day. And the Commission for Investigation of Election Interference has since been decommissioned while other commissions have been taken on. But nobody ever responded to that fraudulent document and the fact that that fraudulent document was misapplied as an illegal derivative in connection with the uranium sector. Now, what does it mean? I said I'm running for office. I also believe in what I've seen in the Treasury that they're planning to assassinate somebody on election day. Maybe a number of people. I actually believe that they have recalibrated and recomported and illegally interfered with Treasury issues in order to set up either a political assassination or a terrorist attack on election day. Should I drop out again? Or is somebody going to go and audit immediately all campaign contributions made by Raytheon Company, cross-reference them with all campaign contributions made by Halliburton, and cross-reference them with all campaign contributions made with Deloitte to see if, in fact, those companies specifically, but not exclusively, are conspiring to assassinate people in political office in order to correlate interest in the destabilization of the United States government and other governments around the world in order to get market share. I mean, that's what I've been doing. And I'm just letting you know. What was it that I did in that Federal Reserve public comment that would be warranted a $404 donation to some other candidate?